Dr. Sokolowska, degree in psychology from McMaster University in Canada. Prior to joining FDA, Dr. Sokolowska held senior clinical and medical leadership roles in the pharmaceutical industry. Today, she is the Deputy Center Director for Substance Use and Behavioral Health in FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation Research, or CDER. She serves as the center's executive-level leader responsible for advancing FDA's public health response to the non-medical use of substances with abuse potential. She is a recognized expert in drug abuse liability and scheduling strategies and has facilitated numerous initiatives to improve public health. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Sokolowska.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for including me in the meeting today and giving me the opportunity to provide a brief overview of CDER's approach to controlled substances and our key actions and updates for the last year and a bit. My name is Marta Sokolowska. As mentioned, I do not have any conflict of interest, and the views are mine and might not represent the FDA's views or policies. Just briefly start, you've seen this graphic before, and many of you are very, very familiar with it. I'm not going to go through it in details as it was already covered prior, but I think it's important to highlight that, yes, we see the decreases in the overdose deaths. We are very, very happy about it. But as we are looking at these data on an ongoing basis, we also recognize that the overdose crisis is really evolving. We know that there are new drugs that are entering the market, and it's really critical for us to keep the finger on the pulse, so we know how to potentially act to foresee and hopefully counteract upcoming contributing factors to the overdose crisis. So we are thrilled that fentanyl deaths are decreasing. Methamphetamine-related deaths, unfortunately, are still very high and unfortunately are not decreasing as much as we would want. At the same time, we are also looking at a variety of data sources, not only regarding deaths or overdose events, but really trying to better understand the patterns of use of various substances. And the patterns of substance use disorders, as it helps us, again, from FDA perspective, trying to figure out how best can we try to mitigate some of those issues and act accordingly. This is data from National Survey of Drug Use and Health, and again, it was mentioned earlier today. I think it's important to highlight some of the patterns. It's important also to discuss why some of the patterns might be different between the different data sources. And I'm looking forward to hearing more regarding that later. But just to start, I think that it's important that we do mention some of the trends, positive trends of decreased over the years patterns of use, such as the past month use of cigarettes or tobacco. It appears that alcohol use is also decreasing, particularly the heavy binge drinking is decreasing. We also see decreases in cocaine use. And the prescription drug use also appears to be either decreasing or being stable, which is quite interesting because this is not how it was. It's not consistent with the data presented on NMU-RX. So definitely an opportunity to further explore the differences between maybe the population or the definitions, as it was mentioned by Rick, and try to figure out what can we learn from the different patterns that we see being reported. But the one aspect that I think that is what I wanted to really emphasize is that as we have the positive trends of decreased or no change in pattern use, we do see increases in some drug use, particularly overall past year illicit drug use appears to be increasing. So is past year marijuana use or cannabis use. Hallucinogen use, again, might not be that surprising that these are the drugs that we see the increases in the use, but what's also troubling, we also see increases in overall drug use disorder, past year drug use disorder, and past year marijuana use disorder. So again, these are trends that we are looking at very carefully and also trying to figure out if there are opportunities to have actions. So, for instance, focus on drug development or supporting drug development for the disorders that don't have effective treatments, FDA-approved treatments, and we see the trends in the diagnosis of these disorders increasing, such as marijuana or cannabis use disorder. So again, we are looking at the data very closely, and we are hoping to have actions to address that. At the same time, I wanted to make quick shift and talk a little bit about the policies. Earlier this year, Office of National Drug Control Policy issues drug policy priorities. These priorities might look somewhat familiar with the prior priorities through ONDCP and other governmental organizations. They've been issued. Again, we are focusing on reduction on number of overdose deaths. Again, it's still something that we really want to make sure that we continue making progress on that. We want to secure the global supply chain against drug trafficking, stop flow of drugs across borders. Importantly for FDA, the fourth priority is to prevent drug use before it starts. So it's very much related to FDA prevention priorities. To also support development and access to treatments for substance use disorders, and to innovate research and data to support drug control strategies. At the same time, another piece of information or a policy that have been issued within the last few months is the Make America Great Healthy Again, or MAHA Commission. That based on the executive order established the MAHA Commission in February of 2025. And I'm mentioning it because as one of the criteria that was referenced in this executive order, it states access to assess the prevalence of and the threat posed by prescription of SSRIs, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, stimulants, and weight loss drugs. And in the MOCA, or Make Our Children Healthy Again report, it does focus on assessment of root causes of childhood disorders that also mentions stimulants, and we are looking forward to the strategic report that is planned for the summer. But with that in mind, what kind of activities have FDA completed within the last year or so? Regarding the prevention within opioids, we approved a first-in-class non-opioid analgesics to treat moderate to severe acute pain in adults. Again, it's approving additional non-opioid analgesics has been our priority for a long time, and we are really happy that we were able to approve the first one in quite a long time. Regarding reduction in number of overdose fatalities, in 24, we announced Narcan shelf life extension. I do want to mention that also just yesterday we approved another form of intranasal naloxone. Again, adding to the toolbox for our healthcare providers and harm reduction groups, patients and caregivers, to have more naloxone available for potential overdoses. We also, to assure that there is more access to treatment for opioid use disorder, earlier this year, or actually it was last year, we issued Federal Register notice and the healthcare provider letter to clarify misconceptions about buprenorphine for opioid use disorder, transmucosal products. And I think that this is something that is worthy spending a little bit more time, because it really shows from end to end how we collect and integrate the feedback from our stakeholders, the community, and patients to help to inform our actions. Understanding that the landscape of illicit drugs is really changing with the entrance in the last few years of fentanyl and other highly potent opioids, it was assumed that the opioid use disorder profile of a patient's presentations might be somewhat changing, that patients might be tolerant to higher doses of opioids. And with that, what could be assumed is that the doses of buprenorphine as treatment for opioid use disorders might need to be adjusted because to address the withdrawal symptoms during the treatment. And so this was the more of a hypothetical analysis, but it was confirmed by what we've heard from our stakeholders that have reported a number of times that the doses of buprenorphine for opioid use disorder treatment are more effective on the higher end of the label. And there was a reported issue that the buprenorphine labels for opioid use disorders might have been misinterpreted, that it include target dose and dose limits that would lead to undertreatment, or it created access barriers for patients who wanted to treat, or clinicians who want to prescribe somewhat higher doses of this product. We received a citizen petition from some chapters of ASAM chapters to update the label in 2022. We utilized our network of HHS agencies and VA to help to further support any actions related to the label change to strengthen really the CP response. It also included additional engagement with the community. And as a result, in December of last year, we issued an FRN encouraging sponsors to update the label to remove the phrase target dose from the labeling, and also to modify existing statement that states that doses higher than 24 milligrams daily dose have not been demonstrated to provide a clinical advantage, to change that to read the doses higher than 24 milligrams of buprenorphine daily have not been investigated in randomized clinical trials, but may be appropriate for some patients, really, again, reflecting more personalized care. And I'm thrilled to report that in May of this year, sponsors have updated, of the branded products have updated the labels. And now, as a last step, we are engaging with payers. So they are informed and potentially can impact the formulary changes to reflect the new labels. We also earlier this year issued an action or had communication regarding 7-hydroxymetragynine scheduling recommendation, or we express our concerns regarding that product. So 7-hydroxymetragynine is a constituent of kratom plant. In kratom plant, it occurs typically in dress and trace amounts. And that's not what we are concerned about as much. What in this action would be really expressed our concern is what we see is increased availability of products that constitutes concentrated 7-hydroxymetragynine or it's synthetic 7-hydroxy. And the reason for our concern is because these products are essentially 7-hydroxy is a selective mu agonist, and it's fairly potent. So, and currently it's not scheduled, so we wanted to inform the public regarding this potential risk. We also in May had an advisory committee regarding a long-acting, extended release long-acting opioid analgesics. To summarize and to discuss the completed observational post-marketing studies that focused on potential risk for misuse, abuse, addiction, overdose, and death in patients on long-term opioid analgesics. It's important to mention that based on the studies, the estimated estimates for misuse and abuse and addiction were discussed more broadly. Again, the definitions were discussed during the AC, but the 12 months incidence of misuse was somewhere about 1 in 5 of persons who've been on an opioid treatment for 12 months. The abuse was about 9%. and about 5% of these patients were diagnosed with moderate to severe opioid use disorder, as per the standard DSM-5 definition, while overdose fatal and non-fatal 5-year cumulative incidence was somewhere between 1.4 and 4.1% across the different study sites. We also looked at the different risk factors, and it was highlighted that, again, not surprisingly, history of substance use disorder, mental health conditions, baseline opioid doses, and other CNS active medication increased the risks. We didn't see the difference between the formulations, but there was, again, a strong association between the dose and risk. And based on that, we issue opioid safety labeling update in July to summarize some of the changes that we have from the studies that we wanted to incorporate into the labeling, as well as we remove the phase of extended treatment period as part of an indication statement, and from these opioids labeling. Regarding stimulants, again, we are tracking them. We don't see many changes in the prescribing for patients younger than 17. If anything, there is maybe slight decrease. The same thing for 18 to 25, but we do see strong increases for the people higher than 26-year-old. Again, this is something that we are following closely. And based on that, we have had a number of actions. So for instance, we announced safety label update to add limitation of use statement for long-acting stimulants for patients less than 6-year-old. It's based on the pharmacology of this medication and the metabolism. We also published HRQ report on misuse of stimulants in adults. We also thrilled to highlight that we qualified additional treatment for additional endpoints for alcohol use disorder. So now reduction in use can be used as validated endpoint. And we also issued the healthcare provider letter warning regarding the risk of tianeptine, which is also called by some as gas station heroin. We also issued, ASAM issued guidelines on safe tapering of benzodiazepines, which was an initiative funded by FDA, and it was in response to the calls that we've heard from community prescribers during our meetings and interviews regarding the need for more information on safe tapering of benzodiazepines when it's indicated as part of a shared decision making. So we're thrilled to announce that. And last but not least, upcoming activities. Tomorrow we have a demand forecasting workshop or public meeting for controlled substances. Again, as part of FDA activities and responsibilities, we informed the EA regarding the domestic need for Schedule I, Schedule II substances. This public meeting will help us to understand the best practices in such demand forecasting, which will help us to hopefully better inform and collaborate with the EA. And in September, we have our online controlled substances summit, which will hopefully help to inform the public regarding the substances that are being used, that are being available online, and how we can better inform an appropriate use and inform the patients how to avoid inappropriate access to these products. With that, I just want to acknowledge Caroline Huang, who was and the CDER team, who are very helpful in creating those slides, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sokolowska, for sharing such important information. One question related to that presentation: what's the best way for our audience to stay abreast of all the important information and work that FDA is doing?
Well, we do believe that having a strong communication with the public is really important. That's why we do have a lot of meetings. We try to engage in a lot of public discussions. We have a number of opportunities for submitting information, but what's more important, we are trying to communicate to the public every time we have major action. Really want to invest in communicating via various social media and websites and other means the information so the public is aware of the risks or inactions that we are taking.
Wonderful. Thank you.